Good evening, Brett Aker, and welcome to your favorite nighttime show, The Dreaming Prophet. Now, tonight, our episode is going to be discussing secrets. So in the spirit of sharing, I'm going to share a secret with you. And that secret is, even though some people say that we're yellow journalism, I like to think that we're leaning into McCarthyism and going full red. I'm your host, Lavanya.
And I'm Astro.
And we'll be your host for tonight.
This is a Blackout Club show for Blackout Club players with minimal speculation, all lore, and a focus on the known facts. Tonight, our topic is secrets. We're going to be talking about secret passages, secret lore, and everything you can find in the game if you just look a little bit below the surface.
As always, it's time for us to get into our general content warnings. For once, this episode essentially has no warnings beyond general horror. There are no children being harmed. There are no children being injured. And there's absolutely no death or emotional distress of any variety. This episode is good, wholesome fun in a deep underground cave that exists underneath your town and is slowly swallowing up everything around it. But we do have a general spoiler warning. This episode is going to be heavily discussing the map in general. So we're going to be discussing the secret ways through the map, some of the neat things that you can find in it, and we're also going to be dissecting the prologue to a certain extent. So if you're the sort of person who really enjoys finding out all of these little niggly wiggly secrets yourself, then this is probably not the episode for you because we're just going to ruin it all. And tonight we are going to have yet another co-host, this time the lovely Spoderman.
Hi, I'm Spoder. I'm here to represent the Pink Squad.
The most important squad of all. Remember, when you're choosing your outfit for the night, don't go for stealth, don't go for fashion, go for the absolute maximum amount of pink that you can physically cram onto your body. Grab that baby mask, put it on. So there's a lot of secrets in the game, and there's a surprising amount located in the prologue. We primarily discussed the prologue during episode 1 and episode 2, so if you need an overview of what happened in that, go ahead and take a minute to scroll on back and rewatch those episodes. We are going to be focusing on all the interesting little details that you can find in it that you would otherwise miss, more so than explaining the plot in itself. One of the first secrets that you will encounter during the prologue, and that you may not notice initially, is that there is a minor time distortion in the basement hallway. As you're walking down it towards the television before you actually watch the television, you'll notice that it seems to be stretching in front of you. What that essentially is a time slowing. If you walk back down into the basement after you have already watched the television, it will not occur. It's only when you're initially entering that everything will slow down as you approach that television.
After you repair the television and look back down the hallway, you'll see a shadow of your character, Bells, kneeling at the other end. If you close your eyes and then walk down the hallway, it will allow you to skip the trigger of the shadow disappearing, and then you can get an up-close look at it.
As you pass into the living room again, you can also see the shape. His shadow appears on the ground through the window, and when you close your eyes, you can see him there. Bells comments on this, saying, "I can see you." But when you close your eyes again, he's gone.
An important thing to note here is, unlike in the rest of the game, either in the prologue or in the main multiplayer section, the shape is completely flat. He has never hit the gym at this point in his development. He has probably never left his house before. This is his first foray into the world. And then after the prologue, he starts hitting the gym. He's fully 3D.
This pre-swole shape might be caused by the fact that there are two different stages of Bells' house. One, before she wakes up, where the closet, garage door, and front doors are all mysteriously missing and just replaced by flat walls. The second stage of her house is after she's woken up, where all the doors, closet, garage, and front have returned, along with sound barriers and trucks in front of her house.
This dream state also affects other parts of the house and other parts of the sequence that follows. As Bells goes on her quest, she will see things begin to appear in her living room, the Unity tree, for instance, and streamers hanging from the ceiling. Before the Unity tree appears, though, you can see its reflection in the glass cabinet in the living room. This may be a bug, but it's also a really fascinating little bit of foreshadowing.
In the office, there is a book that describes the prisoner's cinema, which is a fun link into all these various Easter eggs they have. Essentially, the prisoner's cinema is when you close your eyes and you see unusual lights in the darkness, or sometimes unusual shapes. This book adds a fascinating element to the game in that we're pretty sure, from the point of view of the child that you're playing, most of the things that you see are real. But, as with basically everything in the prologue, it introduced the question of, is it actually real, or are you just seeing shapes in the darkness? Or are you seeing cards on your bed? Because if after you fix the TV, you backtrack all the way to Belle's room and you look at the bed, there'd be something added to it, specifically a prom invitation between Belle's and a mysterious, unidentifiable black shape. This only appears during the dreaming state, so it's fairly clear that it's not really there, but that won't stop Belle's from reacting and freaking out over it.
After the shape comes out and you're encouraged to run under your house to escape him, you're actually allowed to linger, and if you do, you can see him walking around your house. But you don't have to be scared of him. He can't actually see or hear you. You could dance all you want a foot in front of him, but he won't care.
Belle talks constantly all throughout the prologue, reacting to everything that she sees. If you wait down in the observation room and just hang around, chill out, check your phone, then eventually she will start giving off secret voice lines, basically discussing whether or not she's completely insane, whether she's made this up, if she's actually in a creepy, detailed outline of her house in her basement, if she has a basement, all of that. Belle's character is very well defined throughout the prologue. We know what she wants, we know her motives, we know what she's scared of, ultimately. But these little extra voice lines are a fascinating insight into her character that otherwise you may not necessarily get.
If you manage to break into the last door in the door hallway, you'll find a secret room there where the voice that you're speaking to chides you, saying, "Taking our time, eh?" and then offers you a replacement lockpick.
The code to the keypads later on in the prologue are always the same, so if you know it, you're able to rush through that part quickly.
Inside the main game, there's even more secrets. If you look around, you can notice a few patterns about the world that you're in. For instance, for a very low-tech area, Redacre has a lot of tech magazines. You can find them stacked up in various houses, indicating the owner's interest. In 919, in fact, there's one magazine on the coffee table that you can pick up. It's the only one in the game. There's no reason that you can pick it up, and you probably aren't supposed to, given that it's the only item in the game that doesn't have a black and white icon in your inventory, but it is very fun to pick up.
918 Hoadly is, if you ask basically anyone who's played the game, widely agreed upon to be the best house out of all the houses available. And why is that, you might be asking? It's because it's the fucking SAO house. 918 Hoadly has lovely Kiera's room. She has 2 of everything in her room. 2 beanbags, 2 bunnies on her dresser with a cup wedged beautifully between them. If you look at the floor, she's even got all of her blocks arranged in stacks of 2. She's even got 2 backpacks, though God only fucking knows why a child needs 2 backpacks. And on the wall she has, "I'm 11. Except the thing is, it's not that she's 11, it's SAO's symbol with her face wedged right between the 2 arches. And if you can get over seeing double in Kiera's room, and you head down into the basement, you'll end up in Devon's room. And Devon is one of the few named characters in the game at this point, who we've had the chance to explore their character in depth to the same extent that we've seen Belle's. Devon is featured or mentioned in 6 of the journal entries, which is the most information that we've had dedicated to one character so far. And if you head down into the basement, you'll be in their room. Their room is not quite as amazing as Kiara's room because there is no religious symbiology, whether it's from false, fake-ass voices or the one true voice. They do have posters. They have a picture of what may very well be themselves with a slightly questionable mohawk. And they have a button up on the wall, but not much else. If you want to hear more about Kiara and Devon, then you're in luck because 918 is one of the few houses that has numerous, as I mentioned before, journal entries dedicated to the inhabitant. You can go ahead and read anything in the 918 category, which includes Harper's letter to Alberto, the parent, Devon's diary excerpts 1 through 3, or the mom call transcript 1 through 2. If you don't have the journal entries unlocked yet, then this is a great time to either hop into the official community Discord and go ahead and ask someone, because people are always willing to give you information. Or else you can always just ask your friends, because one of the best things about the Blackout Club, as always, is sharing information with the other people that you're playing with and being able to share your theories as you're going through it.
920 doesn't have all that much to go on, but we do know a few things, like how the family has twins, as we can tell by the 2 beds in the kids' room. It also has a very creepy inventory manifest as its only journal entry, where we learn the names of the twins, Marshall and Margot Wellesley.
921 Hoadly is an interesting case in that we know absolutely jack and shit about the residents. What's their names? Who knows? What do they do with their lives? Who knows? There are no journal entries for this house. There is no maze access inside the house, and there are no mentions of the residents or anything else from the other journal entries. We do have some minor information which leads to a fun secret that you can find in the game. One or both of the parents who live within 921 Hoadly are members of the military. They have a prisoner of war flag outside of their house. They have 2 medals up on their wall, and they have pictures, and they have military souvenirs all over the place. Which, at first, this may not seem noteworthy in itself, but if you go across the street from 921 Hoadly and you look at the deer statue, you'll find something interesting. It has a plaque on it that says Deer Fall Park, dedicated to the men and women of the township who have faithfully served to preserve our freedom, presented by its grateful residents in 1983. So that's a fun secret to find inside of the game. You won't necessarily notice that normally, but it does give us a rough time for when Redacre has at least been around since, and it gives a hint to at least some aspect of 921 Hoadly, and that maybe whatever they did in the military was so noteworthy or so well respected inside of Redacre that they got a fucking statue for it.
922 Hoadly is Siobhan and Nayali's house. This house has 4 relevant journal entries, the Nayali Baby Book entries 1 through 3, and the RPD police report. In this report, Colm Ryan is mentioned, presumably Siobhan's brother. His room is the storage room in the upstairs, across the hall from the master bedroom. It has a weird altar in the corner. There's a symbol on it that we can't quite recognize and that appears nowhere else in the game. It appears to be a triskelion, 3 legs walking in a circle, and it also appears to be broken.
If you head over into 1001 Hoadly, then that is the Quiroga's house. Maligra's Quiroga is noteworthy in that she has one journal entry that she directly writes. That is Maligra's letter to the school board. Essentially, she's one of the few people in Redacre that is not interested in maintaining complete isolation for the children. And what makes this unique in the game is that she is also the only political figure that we know of. If you enter her house and you look around, she has a new voice for Redacre in her mayoral campaign, which I'm sure is not an SAO slam, but we're going to pretend briefly that it is. The older Quiroga is interested in increasing the children of Redacre's exposure to outside technology, outside people, and the outside world in general. The younger Quiroga is interested in multiculturalism as well, as seen by the fact she's not only making a dress, she's making a flag dress. We have no direct confirmation of anything about the younger Quiroga or what exactly a new voice for Redacre might mean in terms of what the older Quiroga knows. But it's interesting to look at.
1003 Hoadly is one of the most ominous houses.
Or one of the most beautiful, depending on who you ask.
The house is most well known for its upstairs bedroom, which is covered in clown wallpaper. Walking around the house, you may notice that all the hung pictures are photos of plants. You may think it's just temporary assets, but it's confirmed by a dev that all current pictures were chosen for a reason. So who knows what these might be for.
And now for a word from our sponsors.
Introducing the Redacre Sleep Aid. Let's face it, Redacre has a thriving nightlife, and it can make it very hard for early birds like you to get a good night's sleep. Luckily for you, the Redacre Sleep Aid is a highly effective spring-loaded and injection-based sleep aid. Just point the Redacre Sleep Aid device directly at yourself and pull the trigger for a good night's sleep. Because sleep is a beautiful thing. Take the Redacre Sleep Aid and dream well. Disclaimer, we are not responsible for injuries sustained when using the Redacre Sleep Aid.
So our next section is going to be discussing the secrets of the maze. Now, you may be thinking the entire maze is fucking secret, but the joke's on you because it is cram-packed full of shit that you will never see unless you in-depth explore, or unless you're paying entirely too much attention to it. There are a ton of secret passageways all throughout the maze, which, if you're careful, you have a grappling hook or you just have very good timing, you can navigate almost the entire maze without ever touching the ground. This is insanely useful when it comes to dodging the shape, and it's also incredibly useful when it comes to dodging the lucid, because they may be able to see you and they will climb up to get you, but it's going to take them fucking forever. And by the time they actually get up there, you will already be gone. One of the most interesting things about the maze to me is the fact that all of the rooms that play music or are part of the song are actually named after body parts. Unfortunately, I know jack shit about anatomy, so I can't lead the way on that. Personally, when it came time to choose our electives, I did the right moral thing, and I looked the health class in the eyes and I said no. So I took course. Fortunately, Astro was homeschooled, so Astro is here to lead us through this amazing analysis of the human body. Your turn, Astro.
I can't believe you'd expose me like this. The throat is one of the first parts of the instrument you'll come in contact with, and it may not be quite obvious because it doesn't have any visible strings, but the throat is important because it's a resonator. At the bottom of the throat there's water, which you can only see when you fall into it, which is not advised for the record. You can also hear it, though, in the ambient water dripping sound effects if you stand close to it for long enough. It seems to have an opening to the surface of some sort, far above it if you look straight up, and hopefully when you're not falling into it. Ingestion is another part of the instrument that plays music. This has strings across it that you can climb on and hide from anyone who may be trying to get you. If you're lucky enough to carry a grappling hook, it also has a secret access to string relay. The nerve center can be found at the end of ingestion. At the lowest level, it has secret accesses to the sleeper lockers, to string relay, and to the airway bathroom. Standing on top of or passing just under the big gong or cymbal will let you hear weird voices. This is the same part of the instrument that you see in the prologue when you're trying to jump across the large chasm. The airway is possibly the simplest part of the instrument because it's one long hallway that extends from the nerve center to dream therapy. It's a straight shot across and it connects to string relay and the airway bathroom, but if you need a place to hide, you can duck up into the catwalk above it. And finally, the plexus. The plexus has strong fluorescent lamps that you can hide on top of with a very well-timed and well-executed jump. You can also use your hook to shortcut through parts of it, as it's very large and has multiple levels.
When you head down into the maze, 920 Observation is one of the first rooms, and it's kind of interesting in that go ahead and look up when you're either on that platform or when you're down on the ground, and you can see that the entire house is outlined on the ceiling. If you go ahead and you have one of your teammates go into the house, you'll see that it actually lines up perfectly. Where it says kitchen is exactly where the kitchen is. Where it says garage is exactly where the garage is. And it's interesting in that we don't know why it's there. Instrument supply is one of the most fascinating rooms in the game because you can look all around you and it is chock full of secrets. Secret number one, there are no fucking instruments. There are no fucking supplies. The entire name of this room is a lie. It should probably be called Big Ass Ladder Room because it does have multiple big ass ladders. However, there are still some secrets that are slightly more obvious than that scintillating fact. But the most exciting thing about instrument supply, the most scintillating fact, the thing that sparks the most joy in players' heart, is the fact it not only has one, but it has two shortcuts. If you have your grappling hook like a good, decent, moral-hearted player, you can go ahead and throw that across the throat and make the jump either into string relay or host conditioning. Your friends may say this is crazy. Your family may say this is crazy. The lucids may weep as they see you hurtle over the edge of the cliff and towards your inevitable demise into the throat. But the strong-hearted and the best of us all are willing to die for their ideals and their passion in the pursuit of getting that 30-second or possibly 10-second shortcut out of the way.
That's an interesting thing to say coming from you.
Sometimes we all have to lean into a little bit to our internal die for you and realize if saving precisely 5 seconds at the risk of adding 5 minutes as your friends chase your shaped body across the maze isn't worth it, then what in life truly is?
I stand by these claims. Cryptogram Library is notorious for being one of the largest rooms in the maze, only being rivaled by Dream Therapy. It has secret tunnels on the red side, connecting to new growth and sleeper lockers. The room contains 2 projectors being fed slides through a conveyor belt, which then are projected onto these little red rooms on either side of the Cryptogram Library. The red room on the south side of Cryptogram Library is the only current known spot where you can observe rare behavior. Subliminal media contains 2 parts, a room completely covered in soundproof foam, and an all-white room projecting a yak video to an empty audience. In front of the beautiful yak video, there's a hole in the ceiling, which, if you have a grappling hook, you can use to climb underneath one of the Somniloquys. Beneath subliminal media, there's a small tunnel in the back northwest corner, which leads into the well. Back in the soundproof room, there are 4 tiny cubicles containing 3 monitors each, projecting a certain portion of the maze. Now, these aren't live feeds, you can't go there and dance in front of it, but you can still see certain sections of the maze.
Film Archives is a fascinating room because at first glance, it just looks like a huge ass cave. Film Archives, as you wander around in it, you'll see that there's shelves up on the walls, and what you should do is go over to them and go ahead and take a look. It is filled with the same sort of projector tapes that are used in the projectors that we see throughout the maze. And these projector tapes have names. As of July 28, 2019, these names are currently works in progress, if I remember correctly, and the dates on them are not accurate. But what they show as of right now is that they are the names of children. They are further examples of the recordings that you can see all throughout the maze in the form of houses being shown or streets being shown on the television screens or in the constant fucking cameras that you will always be tripping over. Sleeper lockers, despite the names, is not a place where you go to sleep. They do not have any beds in them. They are in fact just a locker room for the sleepers, but despite that, they don't have any showers either. It's literally just a shit ton of lockers that are not even linked to the bathroom, the sleeper bathroom being the one place in the maze that is not named and that you never want to go, fragment aside. In fact, their placement in the maze really just doesn't make any fucking sense. But that's course funding for you. So the sleeper lockers are not connected to the bathrooms. They're not connected to the barracks. They're not connected to any place that would make actual sense. But what they are connected to is the Cryptogram Library. So if you ever need to go to the Cryptogram Library and check out some fascinating slides of people doing yoga, then just remember you can just pop up through the ceiling, climb down the rafters, and go watch them in the nice, sweet privacy of the sleeper lockers. From there, the other place that you can reach is you can head underground into the nerve cluster from the sleeper lockers, which there's no explanation again on why there's vents in the floor filled with ladders in here, but it's best not to ask questions. There's some things that young minds just aren't meant to know. Or else you can head off into ingestion through climbing on the sin wires. From there, you can also, once again, reach the nerve cluster. So no matter where you go, if you need to go to the nerve cluster, you probably can just cut through the fucking sleeper lockers. That's what they're there for. Dream Therapy, once again, despite the name, is somewhat disappointing in that there are no beds here. There is nowhere to sleep unless you want to go cocoon yourself into one of the creepy recording stalls or huts across the place. Interesting thing about Dream Therapy, though, despite the misleading name, is the fact that it's forest-themed, much like one of the houses above ground. Dream Therapy is green. In fact, it's so green you could say that it's green therapy. The wood is green, the lighting is green, even the pipes, depending on how you look at them, are pretty much fluorescent green. Everywhere in Dream Therapy, you will see either plants in the form of the strange, exotic pillar things above you, or else in the literal form of ivy that is growing fucking everywhere. If you look at the shadows of some of these strange tree pillar things that they have all throughout, you can kind of see the words SH written out in it. Is that intentional? Is that just a human mind desperately grasping at shapes that it recognizes in what is frankly a pretty fucking confusing shadow? Who knows? But it's there. At the highest level of dream therapy, there's a weird set that is essentially of a school. You have lockers, you have desks, you have tables, and you have the constant droning buzz of 1,000 voices, bells ringing, weirdness going on up there. We're not exactly sure what that means because it's never explicitly mentioned in any of the journal entries, but you can kind of hazard a guess, especially given that dream therapy is only connected to 3 places: the somniloquy, the airway, and host conditioning.
The arches has an access to the twist just above it. If you climb into the crawl space above the walking area, you can reach that, or you can hide from enemies or stalkers. The crawl space is reachable by grapple or by a lucky jump. Signal relay can be found at the end of the plexus. It has 2 mirrored chambers on either side, and there are ladders that lead to an attic above it for hiding or for playing the strings. There's a shaped door between the 2 halves, and other than the placement of a chair and a contraband locker, they are almost exactly the same. There are 2 somniloquies too, which also branch off of the plexus. According to the update notes with Update 7 Somniloquy, there is a reason for this, we just don't know yet what it is. One of these somniloquies seems to be in progress. It has scaffolding, work lights, and more soundproofing, while the other one looks much more polished. In the center of each, large tanks hold glowing gas that gets vented out the top. There's usually at least one passage from the control room to the topmost level in both, where catwalks surround the room.
String relay is a pretty straightforward room. It is a giant fucking cave, much like most of the maze, and surprisingly, it is filled with strings. These strings are constantly moving. Some of the interesting things here are that if you touch the moving wires, at least in the past, then they would make sin/noise. There's a single suspended wire between 2 of the catwalks that you can walk across. This is the only wire. Do not touch the other single wires because you will fall through. There is a secret hidey hole to the side that faces the throat where you can kind of tuck yourself away, and it is pitch black. The lucids will not see you, stalkers may not see you, and for stalkers, players will probably not see you because they're going to assume you ran out the other way. This hidey hole does have a dangerous secret though, and that it is filled with the danger sticks. These danger sticks are technically water phone spines, but we're just going to stick with danger sticks for the aesthetic. If you touch the danger sticks, it will make noise. Not only will it make noise, it will make a shit ton of noise. You cannot climb on the danger sticks. You cannot place your hook on the danger stick. These danger sticks will bring you nothing but pain in your life. So frankly, you should avoid them and probably find a better hiding spot. The barracks only have 1 secret tunnel. So when you're heading down the stairs, look to the left. You're going to see that pantry full of supplies with a water tank and a picnic table perfectly positioned so that you can watch your coworkers sleep. But if you can hold off from that level of voyeurism and you just look up, you'll see a secret tunnel that'll let you slip all the way through the wall and out almost towards the back. That is the only place that barracks has in terms of secret tunnels. Other than that, it connects to the plexus. So, host conditioning is an interesting place because as you're walking inside, if you close your eyes, you'll see something on the floor. It's an eye symbol. That eye symbol is something made to ward off the adversary and all of those poor, unfortunate souls that are foolish enough to fall in step with him. This is a fond reminder to everyone, but especially Spoder, that just because the eye symbol is on the floor in host conditioning, that doesn't mean you're not welcome here. It means that you should go on in, step onto the disco floor down below, and let the song into your heart.
New Growth is one of those rooms which are obviously still under construction. It features scaffolding, tarps, and various supplies scattered around the room. On the northeast side of the room, it features 2 exits, one into the twist and one into the Somniloquy. It also connects to the well on the northwest side. The well acts almost like an elevator connecting to multiple parts of the maze. It features a staircase to the barracks on the bottom, along with a tunnel connecting to subliminal media and 2 doorways connecting to film archives. Above, it has an entrance to New Growth and to the Somniloquy, which is only accessible by using a grappling hook. The top of the well is gated off, but will one day connect to Old Growth.
There are more secrets here that we haven't covered, and we can't get everything in this one episode. There's quite a lot to cover. Even though the map may not be as expansive as other games, it's deep, and that depth extends into the detail as well as the physical depth. Additionally, there will definitely be more secrets in the game after this comes out. We're recording this before the full release of the game on July 30th. So we can't tell you about what's going on there. You'll just have to find it for yourself. Our new show music is called Ringing Bells. It has been provided to us by a generous, anonymous person who has asked us to credit them as a weirdly handsome individual. This was their explicit request, so we're going to honor it. And finally, our new logo is by Lavanya. It is gorgeous. I am so happy with how it turned out, and I am so proud to put it on our podcast.
Very grateful, but not grateful enough to credit me as a strangely, specifically handsome, mysterious stranger. So I say howdis.
The Blackout Club is made by Question Games. Our advertising director is Bellamy. Our transcript and video is by Lavanya. Audio editing is by me, Astro. Our guest today was Spoderman. Xaviul is the way shipping arrives by car, but cargo goes by boat.